Welcome back to Luke's Motor Shop. Behind me I have a 1974 Ducati 900GTS, which I originally built about 15 years ago. And I've ridden this bike everywhere. I've had a blast with it. And about 7-8 years ago, I did an engine swap. I swapped in a 900 SS engine, so that's the Desmo heads. Then about 4 years ago, the engine blew up. One of the connecting rod bearings went out on it. So now I've got to bring the, so I've torn the whole engine down, and this is the connecting rod here that's knocking. So I'm going to take the crank, the heads, and the cylinders to the machine shop and see what they have to say. I'll get them to split the crank to see if the connecting rods are any good still or if they're bent. I'll get them to check out the cylinder walls to make sure they're not scored up too much. Some light scoring in there. And at the same time, I'm gonna get them to replace the valve seals. So once I have that all back, I'll start the rebuild process. There's a few other things that I'm gonna change, but not very much right now. My goal right now is to just get the bike back on the road, get the engine back into it. I don't wanna dive too deep into changing anything else around or anything like that. I just wanna get this bike back on the road. It's been too long since I've ridden it, and it's such a fun bike to ride. So I'm gonna get this stuff to the machine shop, see what they have to say, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'm gonna take it in a little bit of a different direction with this engine. I started pricing out everything to actually do a full rebuild engine on the 900 SS. And to start off with, the crank pin and the connecting rods, which are really what I need to start off with this thing, even before bringing it to the machine shop, are 1,200 euros. That's the best price that I've found for a good used set of the pin and the connecting rods. So that's about $1,800 Canadian. Shipping was whatever, so call it $2,000. That's just a start. Then I have the machining costs, the other internals for this engine that I'm gonna need, pistons and rings, and you know, the valve seats and all these other costs that are gonna go into it. And so just to get started on this rebuild, I would need about $5,000. And I really want to get this bike back on the road for the spring. So what I decided to do is, instead of going through a full rebuild on the 900 SS engine, I'm going to take the original engine that came out of the bike, which is the non-Desmo version, so a standard Ducati square case engine, and I'm going to put that back in, upgrade the electronics to the modern electronic ignition system, which I'll order, and that will get this bike back on the road for the spring, and it's not going to break the bank. For now, I'm going to get the old engine, the original engine that still runs good, off the shelf, and you know, do some maintenance on it, get it back up to spec, get the new ignition system into it, and get this bike back on the road for the spring. And then I'll go through the process of rebuilding the 900 SS engine. When I have some more time, I can actually take my time with it instead of rushing to get it on the road for the spring. So, gonna get the engine down, check it out, make sure it's good, measure the clutch, you know, do the heads, all that, and then get that back in the bike. So, I'm gonna start figuring that out. So that's the direction that I'm gonna go in. All right, so we gotta get the old Ducati engine out of this bay here. And it is, I don't know if you can even see it, it is way up there in the corner. So yeah, we're gonna see how this goes, trying to get it down.
Yeah, I don't know what that
Yeah, okay, so see that 2x4, those two 2x4s that go across?
Yeah.
That's how I got it up there.
Oh, you fucking hoisted it up?
Yeah, so we'll use this rope around that.
Who? You? Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway.
You have the first aid kit?
I have two. Oh, this is not gonna go well.
Yeah, it's probably pretty fucking heavy.
Yeah, man.
Do you have a chain hoist or something? Like your come along, or? Like
I do.
Alright, we can try and do it manually, I don't care. I'm feeling
probably
strong.
better to you, you're probably right.
I'm feeling strong. Now, also, is that glass up there important to you?
Yes, very important.
Okay.
Okay. Unlikely to get used up. Anyhow, you know what? You're right. We're gonna get the chain noise.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. I got that. Definitely a good idea. I hope it's long enough. That's a little bit better. And remember, if you can't tie knots, tie knots. Are you good? Perfect. Okay. Here, come on down. I'll strap that guy up there.
Okay. Get band-aids for you right now.
Thanks.
You want an e-pad?
What are we doing later?
Hey? Yeah, man, I'm learning that too.
No, it's gonna be fine. Thanks last word.
You gotta have the faith in your rigging, brother. that strap was on sale, wasn't it?
You want to see a guy fuck up his back and lie back?
And then go to work and hurt it.
Huh?
Go to work and hurt it. Don't hurt it at home.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, come on. You gotta maybe go up a little more there. Pretty much it. And the you want to go down onto that wood thing there? Or down the ground? Okay. Fish. Zach. Woo! Yeah. Nailed her. Nailed her. Sick. Yeah, instead of rebuilding the other one, I'm just gonna use this one.
Yeah.
All right, that went pretty smooth getting the engine down. So now, gonna start checking everything out, make sure it's good to go to put in the bike. All right, so this is the original engine. It's the non-Desmo version of the square case that originally came in the bike. And I swapped over to the Desmo engine because I had an extra engine and I wanted the Bosch Ignition system. But since then, I've upgraded the bike with the Dyna coils and the Sache's German Electronic Ignition there. So now I'll be taking all those parts and fitting them onto this engine and checking the clutch, checking the valve clearances, and just freshening up everything up to make sure that it's gonna work well with the bike again. So adventures in flywheel pulling here. I took apart one puller there with the arms with the claws on them and mounted onto a steering wheel puller. Got the wire there keeping everything together. So hopefully this this flywheel will come off so I can get at the electronics behind it. Yeah! Boy, this is woo! Woo! Look at that. Stoked. Stoked I got that off. Alright, so I'm pretty happy that the flywheel popped off pretty easily there. So now I'm going to take out the original electronics, and I've ordered the new electronic Sache, that German company, their new unit that replaces this one. So while I'm waiting for that to come in, I'll go through everything else, the heads, and measure the clutch. And depending on how long the shipping for that takes, I'll probably install it after the engine is back in the bike. All right, so I have the original Ducati Electronica unit out of the bike here. So when the new one comes in, I'll just bolt it in and run the wires to the system. So the reason why I changed that out is because it's known to always have problems. And every trip that I've been on with this bike, I've always had an issue with the ignition system. So I've already replaced the coils to the Dyna coils. So now I'll replace this engine's electronic ignition to the newer style. So I have to wait for that. So I'm gonna put this cover back on just to protect everything. And then I'm gonna move on to the heads, check the tappet clearances for the horizontal and the vertical head. And then I think I'm ready to install the engine into the bike, which is pretty exciting. So I'm gonna get on with that and go from there. Okay, so I got the inspection covers off of the engine here for the horizontal cylinder. So the clearances that I need with the feeler gauges are 8 millimeters for the inlet valve, and 0.08 mil for the inlet valve, and 0.12 millimeters for the exhaust. So I've got the timing tool set up there. There's little ticks on the cover, one there and one there for each cylinder. So what I'm going to do is rotate the engine until I feel it coming up on the compression stroke for the horizontal cylinder. Okay, so it's not that one, so it's going to be the next one. Okay, yeah, I feel it coming up there. So that's the compression stroke there. So I'll just line it up with the tick to make sure that this cylinder is the top dead center. So I'm pretty close to lined up there, that's gonna be fine. So now, I'll be able to measure the clearances on the valves. And then after that, so I'll do the same thing with the vertical cylinder, and then just put the inspection covers back on. And then I'll be ready to put it in the bike after I clean the engine up a little bit. So that's the last one there. So sliding in and out just with a little bit of friction, so that's perfect. So now I'm gonna put all the caps back on, and then get to cleaning. So one more thing I do need to do here is you can see in the sprocket area here, there's just a ton of grease and grit and everything. It's because the seal behind the sprocket is needs to be replaced. So I'm going to pop the sprocket off of there. It's already loose from when I took this engine out before, and just get at the seal, replace that, then start the cleaning. This clip definitely made me laugh a little bit. As I'm trying to figure out how to get the chain hoist on the ceiling there, I decide not to use the trash can on top of the bench trick and grab a ladder instead. Oh, Nicole would be so proud of me right now. So you can see here the method that I used to actually get the engine into the bike. I didn't really need to use the hoist to get the bike off the table, but it was a little bit easier than finding the ramp for it. But basically what I did was, get the engine underneath the bike, strap down to the table, and then position the bike under the hoist, lift the frame up, drop it on top of the engine, and then bolt it up. I did have to take the clutch cover off to do this operation when I was maneuvering the engine underneath it. There's a risk of, damaging the case with the frame, and I didn't want to dang it up or dent it up. In hindsight, this was quite a struggle, and I wish I had someone to help me out. It was pretty tough to maneuver both the engine and the hoist at the same time, but struggled with it and finally got it in place, and I was really happy with the results once it was in there. Oh man, hey, that was a bit of a struggle to get the engine back into the frame there. So I'm gonna call it here for this episode. Next episode, I'm gonna be taking care of mounting the carburetors, getting the exhaust hooked up. And right now, I'll just be waiting for the electronic ignition that I've ordered to come in. So thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. And then hopefully I'm gonna have this bike fired up pretty soon. So thank you very much for watching. See you later.